Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. How are we all doing today? I'm just going to do my usual sharing thing and we'll get Denver on here. So just bear with me for 1 second. Excited to learn more about what Denver is doing, how he got there, and all that good stuff. Give me just a sec here. How's everybody's weekend? And how's everybody's Monday going? Go ahead and throw some comments in there. Hey Josh, how are ya? We're gonna get Denver on here shortly as soon as I can share this live. Boy, oh boy. Good post this morning, Josh. I shared it and yep. Everybody's got to start paying attention to their insurance policies. I remember those days well. We used to call them all though, well I did. I used to call all my renewals when they were coming up. So yeah, you should be fired up. It's like, I remember distinctly when I was when I worked at one place that I took over a book of business and it was a farm and they didn't have their buildings covered. It was insane. Hey Denver, let me bring you on here. Let me get you on here. And I'm just adding my personal page. Hopefully it'll work. It's so important to check everything. That is so true, Josh. And people think, you know, oh, well, the broker's got it covered to the agent. Well, if you buy equipment or you add equipment. Hey, Denver, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you perfectly. I'm just finishing one thought here. Josh, it's so true because everybody, whether they add equipment or they add whatever, and they forget to phone their insurance broker, right? So everybody's got to review their insurance policies. There's our little insurance rant for the day. Hi, Denver.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, insurance is important stuff.
You know, like we have my friend here and my partner is an insurance broker down in Arizona and he just was able to save somebody or get them covered properly. Good morning, Eric. Because they were not insured. They're in spray foam and they weren't insured for spray foam.
Yeah.
You know, and people make that mistake all the time. So it's like, dang, you got to do it. You got to look it up. You got to go over it with your broker. You know that in your business.
Oh yeah. And something we haven't gone over yet is my grandfather actually started an insurance company.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
So
he was an insurance agent and then he was in the insurance business for a long time. Most of my family still does that.
Is that right? Well,
Yeah.
Josh Cotner's in here. He's in Arizona, so that's very interesting because that's what he does. And I was an insurance broker for 20 years. So, you know, it is what it is. Hey JP, hey Paul, how's everybody this morning?
Hey, what's up, JP?
We've got Denver Gray is our guest today on this Business Monday. So Denver, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do.
My name is Denver Gray, and what I do, it's kind of a laundry list, but there's some highlights. I, along with my partner Danny, own Gray Hill, which is primarily a real estate / we also do a little e-commerce and we do a lot of media stuff online. So primarily, I guess our main book of business, the main way we make money right now is investing in real estate, and we're looking to teach other people to underwrite properties of any kind in the commercial space. But I started in general residential, and prior to that, I worked in the oil and gas industry, underwriting and helping analyze oil and gas fields. So I was used to very big things, and because it takes anywhere from 6 to 36 months to do a normal oil deal, whereas in real estate, the same process might a deal might become available. Then you have like 2 or 3 hours if it's a hot property to figure out how you feel about it on a numbers basis, looking at the market. And then you'll be closed in and operating the deal within 30 to 60 days. So it's a lot faster.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is oil and gas, it's still real estate.
That's right.
And it's just that instead of having a building or tenants, you've got pump jacks. So if your tenant, aka your pump jack, stops pumping, you can pay someone to go out and fix it. And I mean, both businesses are just trying to figure out how to get the cash flow going, how to not, bother all your contractors too much and make sure they do a good job without micromanaging. How do you optimize? And so I actually took on real estate accidentally.
Oh, is that, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like paying rent, so I moved into a double. And then I was like, this is cool. I get a check every month. And then I didn't view it as a business, and I lost my first tenant. About 3 months in, their lease came up. Actually, no. He wanted to move and asked me if he could move and break his lease. And me not really thinking about it as a business at the time, trying to be a super nice guy, I was just like, yeah, sure, dude. And then I didn't have a tenant helping me with the note. And I, at the time, didn't plan to have to pay the full note. And so I lost that income. And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Right. Yeah.
And so once I got that figured out, I was like, how do I get more of these checks?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little addictive, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of where the real estate deal came from. And then I didn't realize how similar it was to oil and gas until much later.
Right.
And once I started to analyze properties and the ways that I was taught to analyze things from a finance standpoint in oil and gas, I started to realize that I could put a lot of my knowledge to work on commercial stuff, because I don't know how to optimize and figure out how to make someone feel like a kitchen's worth more dollars, but right. I can increase the cash flow on a property and get people to stay in there. And for me, that's more familiar. So some people, right. Residential might make way more sense. Whereas for me, commercial, like I just already have a lot of a background in that kind of stuff. So,
right. So now did I read that right? You are in New Orleans?
Yes, ma'am.
You are. Okay.
Yes.
So New Orleans has had some pretty devastating,
that happened my senior year of high school.
It's been a crazy, that's kind of a, you guys have gone through some pretty rough times. So like for the real estate market, how has that affected it?
What was kind of interesting was the real estate market got hammered, but that was my senior year of high school. So I went to college right after that. And when I went to college, I didn't really get to experience how that happened. So I can't really speak from my personal knowledge.
Right.
But from an analytical standpoint, what's kind of interesting is we got hammered and we were on the comeback. And since we were already so far down as far as market prices, and because when every house for a mile in every direction was flooded, property prices kind of go down.
Right. Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah. But when the 08-09 market crash pummeled the rest of America, everyone kind of came down to our level, but we were already in repair mode. So right. We reacted to that market a little differently. Since we were on the upswing, I didn't see as much pain at home as I saw in the places where I was in college in Florida, for example, and stuff like that. And just right. Watching those other markets get hammered was weird for me, because I'm calling home to see how my mom and dad are doing. And I mean, it's hard to have an economy be devastated when you already have like 12 people in a neighborhood for thousands. I mean, I lived in a house on the second floor because the whole first floor was ripped out, and I was in that house for 3 to 6 months while homeschooling, while helping rebuild. I mean, you're doing all these things, and you're so used to everything being destroyed that anything's better than that. And so I think New Orleans right. went through it with ease, just not necessarily with ease, but we were already held down by so many other factors that I just don't think that we experienced 09, 08 like everyone else did.
Right. And I mean, I guess the way to look at it too is the only way you go down, like the only way from that point is up, right? So that's all you can do. You have to
Yeah.
rebuild. You have to do that. You can't just, those things are going to happen, and
Yeah.
and they're not in anybody's control. Well, the economy, I guess, is somewhat in our control, but like weather stuff is not in our control, and you have to, it's terrible that it happens, but you got to get in there and rebuild. So,
I mean, I think the idea that anyone's ever in control is an illusion. You can
right.
stack the deck and try
Yeah.
and direct things and plan. But I mean, for example, today I plan to be open, but in a minute I might walk you through the office. Today ended up being our moving day.
Oh, today was your moving day.
So I screwed up with the schedule. Today's my moving day. Tomorrow, I'm trying to fly out for a funeral, and then I'm going to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, which is on Friday/Saturday and Sunday. So this whole week is just crazy.
Man, you have a lot going. Weren't you doing a course with
Ty Lopez?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to a course.
Oh, no, I'm in it's a mastermind type thing where they're all working together. I think right now there's between 25 and 50 people in the group, and
gotcha.
I is kind of helping facilitate connecting us all together. And so everyone in the group is either a business owner or an entrepreneur at a different level. And so we're going to be going on somewhere between 4 to 8 different trips throughout the year. And we're in a group on Facebook where I can message all these other business owners. Hey, where are you at with your, I'm having a problem with this payroll. I'm trying to figure out online marketing on this or that, There's different people in all kinds of different industries and states and countries in the group. So it kind of lets you throw questions out to some pretty high level people and get really quick answers from people that normally you'd have to get an appointment or a meeting with. So we're all trying to help each other build.
Yeah. And do you find now, I'm finding more and more that you get into those kind of groups, and I mean, I'm in a few groups myself, and they're in a different industry, but they really, it's so awesome to see people in those groups come together and work together. It's not that oh, you're my competition, I'm keeping you over here, but if you work together, you can all grow together.
Well, I mean, we kind of started that, the whole mindset of, I mean, one of the things that I learned early on in oil and gas is no matter what industry you're in, once you get to a certain mindset and a certain level, especially if you want to grow, like in oil and gas, there can't be more than 1,000 families that do what my uncle and my family do. And maybe there's 2,000-3,000 in all of North America. So if you screw one person in a deal, can I say screw? Is that allowed?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
If you screw one person in the deal, before there was internet, everyone would hear about it and you'd be thrown on a blacklist and you'd never do a deal ever again. People don't realize, if you go and post this landlord or this property manager or this banker or whatever was awful, and you say that, especially in a live stream, it's permanent. Suddenly now you're the guy where if someone makes a little mistake and it might have not been their fault, you're going to throw him out under the bus, and you're known as the guy don't do business with him. He could hurt your business. And the bigger you get and the more online you are, the more careful you have to be with what you say. Talk to someone face to face, figure it out like a real human being, and don't take your grudge on social media. I mean, you're not an Instagram, influencer or whatever. Be a person.
Yeah, well, exactly. But that seems to be people's way. And the thing that I always will say and always have done, even in the industry that I'm in, you know what, even if you've made a mistake, call, you're saying, call the person and go, I screwed up here. Here's what we got to do to figure it out. You know what I mean? Just don't, because if you don't do that, you're going to be on blast, and it's going to be, I always say you may as well close up your doors, but it's too easy for people now.
And the whole bring value thing, anyone can watch our our Facebook page or go through and type in, like, go to my page and type in what's the deal. I do it every Friday, and
Yeah.
you can see, and we spell out over the last 22 episodes basically our business philosophy, but also how we underwrite and analyze properties and how we have and how we've gotten to where we are.
Yeah.
I mean, it started out living in a double and then went from the double into 5 houses. And then from those 5 houses, sold all the single family and decided that I needed to go into commercial because I couldn't really figure out how to optimize and get that residential thing. Because I don't know, like, right. I don't have a good feel for what neutral colors are right and what stainless appliances look
right.
perfect. Or, you know, yeah. I'm not that guy. I'd
yeah.
rather do something where it's a commercial property. I can buy 20 of the same washer and dryer, put them all in the same building, have one electrical bill.
Right.
And it's more simplified.
Easy. Yeah. And I think too, you have to go into whatever your marketplace is. You got to be in there where you're comfortable and you know it, and you can just, it's going to do well because you're passionate about it and you know what you're doing. And it's not that uncertainty. Like you're saying, you don't know what, you know, is that a good neutral color or whatever? It's just, you know what you're doing. So do you stay, is all of your commercial stuff right in New Orleans, or are you across the country, or how does that work?
Right now, we're only in one property. We're building out systems, and I mean, I'll be honest, we're on our first property because we just got started with this, and we're building out a model. And right now, we haven't got any more properties because we're trying to go slow and see how stuff pans out. We're about to, basically our structure is, I don't want to get too into it because it's probably too complicated for this show. But we're going to sell 90% of our equity in our first deal. So our investors will own 90% of the property, and then we'll guarantee a return that if we can't pay in cash, will be put onto their equity position. And then if there are any rehabs or things like that needed throughout the year, that'll get paid for out of the cash flow of the property. We're planning on never having to raise any more cash.
Nice.
That's the plan. Plans don't always work, but we're going to take that cash once we sell that equity and go into anywhere from 1 to 3 more properties. And the property type isn't necessarily going to have to be multifamily, but we're looking at mobile home parks and storage.
Okay.
Like self-storage.
Yeah.
Not warehouses. I want to have as many tenants and as much cash flow from as many tenants as possible, because once you hit a certain number, vacancies, instead of going up and down, average out.
Right.
And so you've got a consistent cash flow, which is more important to me than one, like, I mean, if you own like a Walmart, what if Walmart leaves? Now you've got a huge $10 million building and no rent check. And that's like, yeah, it might have been a great tenant, but now you got no tenant. So what are you going to do?
Right. And and you know, that does happen. Like, I know up here, was it Kmart, or I think actually, you know what it was? It was Target came up here, and
Target.
Yeah, they took on, like, of course, they're in the biggest, you know, square feet in a mall that they can be. And all of a sudden it didn't work and they're gone. And so now it's like that. Now who's going to fill that spot? That's a lot of that's a lot of cash to be out, right?
The landlord. Yeah, and the landlord's sitting there, and the landlord taking on that tenant. I don't think they realize now you're competing with Amazon, bro. Like,
exactly.
Like, I don't like Amazon can't rent people apartments yet, so I'm not worried about that.
Right.
You know?
Not yet.
But actually, if you look at Facebook, I think that the realtors are going to get pummeled. And we actually started out with real estate sales because at the time we were sitting and we were thinking, all right, so we know we can do the investment stuff. But the biggest problem anybody's going to run into with investments is, they've got cash flow, but depending on your mortgage size, if you're making $1,500 a month on a house, your note after all expenses, $1,500, your note might be $1,250. So you might have only $250. You can't live on $250, even though you've got.
Right.
So you can have a fair amount of capital deployed and then not have that much cash to distribute and live on after.
Right.
And so our biggest mistake in the beginning was we were thinking way too small.
Right.
Way too small.
Mm-hmm.
And who is the 4-Hour Work Week? Was that Tim Ferriss?
I
can't remember.
Is it Tim? It's Tim, right?
I can't remember, but
I know who you mean. Yeah.
I was reading that book a while back, and this wasn't like the exact instance that made us move to bigger, but he kind of talked about it in an eloquent way. He said, there's a lot of people competing to survive in the space of mediocrity. So everyone wants to get a normal paycheck of, I don't know, 40 to 60,000 take home and, you know, just live a normal life. Everyone's shooting for that normal space, but so few people shoot big that it's actually less competitive on the top end than it is in the middle.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that if you just, you know, are brave enough to reach, that your odds of success are not as bad as people presume. Like the whole like it's 1 in 17 or so entrepreneurs make 6 or 7 figures, like are like truly successful. Mm-hmm. Well, we're in the state of the internet. Like you can make 17 e-commerce stores in 17 weeks. So
I say to people all the time, you know, it drives me crazy because it's like this little contraption right here.
Oh yeah.
That's your office. This is it. I don't care if you're sitting on there you go. Cheers. I don't care if you're sitting on a beach in Mexico. You can be in wherever. This is your office.
Absolutely.
It's mind-blowing to me. And it's also, what is also mind-blowing to me is the number of younger people than me, which is a lot of them. They all do this, like they're all about the Snapchat and they're all about Instagram. They're all about that stuff for being, you know, goofing around and being silly. And I always say to them, you guys could be making money while you're doing that. Like, do you get it? Like you can do that, but
it's not that big of a step to monetize it. You just add in like 15, 20% more work than the posting you're already doing. Just brand yourself.
Yeah.
Like we show people how to underwrite properties. We need to kind of refocus because lately I haven't put as much time into focusing down and really trying to teach people how it is that we learned how to do what we do. And my last couple episodes were kind of ranty and I wasn't really satisfied with how they went. So I'm going to start writing my shows again on Wednesday and really kind of scripting out and trying to give as much value as I can. That's something that we stopped focusing on what it is we do and started trying to do too many things. And I think entrepreneurs do that a lot of times. They're like, oh, but what about these other 43 ideas? If I do all of them at once, magically I'm going to win. And you're like,
yeah,
we're finding that if you find your thing and focus, no one does that. And it seems like it's a lot easier to win when you find your thing and just do that. Yep. And if you can spiral out and do more things later, well, that's fine. But right now, do the thing that makes you money and don't worry about the other things.
Exactly.
So,
that's exactly right. So you go live, it's every Friday. And what time do you?
1 p.m. Central.
Okay.
So
that's 11 a.m. our time, Pacific time.
And I'll do I don't want to say simple because for me that's but different levels and bars, everyone's in a different spot, but I'll go through and say, hey, look, this is what I see when I look at a property. This, like, the cap rate in this neighborhood is here, but the city's developing going that way, or the cash flow, like a 10 cap. People don't know what a 10 cap is. So if I say, all right, well, let's simplify that. If a building's worth $1 million and it's a 10 cap, every year it'll make, after expenses and before mortgage or anything like that, so just basically the expenses that you have to pay, it'll make 100K. Right. So that's a 10 cap, whereas a 9 cap would be 90K.
And on those, yeah.
And so on.
Yeah.
And downtown, typically in any city, would be a lower cap rate, which will make the price go up. And then if you're in a war zone, you might get a 20 cap, or if the building's on fire,
Right. Yes.
Uh,
yeah.
But
And you do that, so that's every Friday. Is it from your personal page, Denver?
yeah, we've been doing it from our personal page, but we've just been doing that, and we're about to actually start a YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
We're moving into a new office now that's going to have a
Yeah.
permanent full-time studio in it.
Oh, very good.
So that'll be different. But as usual, you know, moving, everything's like, we'll have to do it again in 6 months or so when we're in our new setup or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we're going to be painting the walls, trying to make them more permanent, everything. And like right now, literally whenever we go live, like I'm in a conference room of the office adjacent to us.
Yeah.
So it's not even our conference room. We've got literally boxes everywhere in our space right now. I couldn't even sit at my desk.
Right.
But we would literally have to set up the camera and then clean up the entire office, set up the set, change the whiteboards, like wipe off all the math on whatever project we're working on. And it would take us like an hour or more to set up for the show. And then I'd have to figure out planning and everything for the show, what I was going to talk about. And I found that we're wasting all this time. And it was, why don't we just move into a warehouse where the rent's like the same and just have like a space that's what that's for?
That is where we're going to do the show from. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know this is like, I just started this in January and it's just been very like off the cuff and very casual, but I do it from either my island in my kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm in my office right now, which is a pretty tiny, it's a very small space, but it's, you know, we'll see where it goes. And I've got somebody who keeps hounding me, you need to get a green screen. And I'm going to be like, I guess I'm going to be doing that. I have 2 people hounding me for that. And their hounding is in a good way, not a bad thing.
Well, I can message you later. And I'll like when I was at Ty Lopez's house, I was looking at his setup, and it's this crazy thing where it's just like a mount that holds like, I don't know, I think it was like 9 phones. And so he doesn't have anything special. It's just he's streaming on 9 separate phones mounted to this huge bracket. They press all the buttons to get them all going at the same time. And then boom, and go.
And then it goes.
And so, like, one of the more influential influencer streamer guys on the Facebook space just uses a bunch of phones. So you really don't need to go buy like a TriCaster and a $9,000 camera. The most important thing is a good mic and good lighting, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So
it's that I think that's where also people get scared because they think, oh my God, I got to invest all this money and all this stuff. And is it going to work? And it's like,
you already invested. It's in your pocket.
It's there. Hit live. Just go. People are so scared to do live. And my other half who's on here, Rex, who says his office is Starbucks in his car. He's an introverted person, not that you would know that if you've watched any of our lives, but live is so perfect for people who are introverted because they don't have to look at anybody else if they don't want to. They just are looking, it's like they're talking to themselves. So it's perfect and you can get your message out there. So
yeah,
I think it's great.
For sure.
So you'll have to put a link in there where people can find you so they can watch your lives.
Yeah.
Put it in the comments.
I mean, we're going live right now just from my personal page, and Danny's going live from his page. But I always share his. I might put a link to his page in here if he wants me to do that at some point afterwards.
Yeah, but, just so people can find you, and when you guys do your YouTube channel, they'll know where to follow you and stuff. So
that'll be a minute, just because I don't know. We've got to look into how many hours that's going to take per day. Because right now, like, I don't make any money off of it. Like. We don't make any money off of our live videos. We just do that because I know it, like, for me, that was a way that I found the financial freedom that I wanted. For me, real estate was the ability to, because, I mean, I day traded for a while and I made a lot of money doing that. But the market's hot right now. It's like, I think an idiot could make money in the market right now. I mean, Tesla, done. But I mean, Tesla's never made any money, so that freaks me out. So I did the stock trading thing, but that wasn't fulfilling because I couldn't go out and touch and really kind of like get any fulfillment out of trading stocks. And I wanted something more tangible, something where I could really give back to and help shift the feel and the quality of a neighborhood. Like, how do you start getting people to paint their houses and mow their lawns again? How do you bring that neighborhood pride back? And so that's why we chose the area we chose, because we really believe in the West Bank, right across from New Orleans. If you're standing in the French Quarter looking at the railing overseeing the river, our building is right across the river from there.
Oh, okay.
So it's a ferry ride away, but for some reason, a lot of the growth the city of New Orleans has seen hasn't really trickled over there yet. And so you can rent a really good place over in Algiers for $800 to $1,200, whereas the same place in New Orleans would be anywhere from like $2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah.
So at some point, that ferry ride is going to look really, really good compared to the rent rate.
That's right.
So we're just waiting.
Right. Yes, that's right. And it'll happen. It just, it's that patience thing, if you're a Gary Vee follower, it's that patience level too, right? It's all about you. It's not.
Yes, you knows Amazon deficit since conception for sure.
Yeah. There's a few of those, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's not whoever's fastest and all that stuff. It really is. Sometimes it is the persistence and it's the patience. It's just keeping at it and just it'll happen eventually, right? Yeah. So, and I saw on your profile you are a 10Xer.
Yeah.
Were you at the growth
story to that? There's a story to that. It's completely that's actually Grant is semi-responsible for me going all in on commercial. When I was in my 4 or 5 houses, because I went from one, the double I was living in, to 4 more houses, and just those being spread apart from that, I realized how much work those locations added when I went from 1 to 5.
Right.
And I've always thought really big, so I was like, well, how is that going to look and work and function when I have 10,000?
Right.
And so if you've got 10,000 locations, but if instead you've only got 100 locations, because they're buildings with multiple units or what have you, that's less mental space. And for me, mental space is crucial when you scale.
Right.
So how do I keep that from, bifurcating and really breaking apart my ability to focus on issues? I'd rather a building be an issue rather than a single house that in the greater scale of things doesn't matter as much. Because if you've got a problem child and you've got a huge portfolio of 1,000 houses, you're not going to be able to give that the care that it deserves, and it's going to take away value from all those other tenants. Whereas if you have a maintenance or janitorial or whatever kind of staff on that building, they can really focus in on that, and I think that it really gives you the ability to focus without taking away value from everyone else who's living in your properties. Because for me, a really important thing is you own and you're trying to keep people's homes. Like you're trying to give them value and in a way to where you don't want to go home and worry about whether or not your landlord fixed the leak in your roof, And I don't want to be the guy who didn't fix the leak in your roof because I forgot about it because I got $900 homes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, that's right. Yeah.
So that's kind of basically what happened was I was sitting there looking at that and decided that I was going to sell all those and try and go in on like a 4 or an 8-plex or something like that to see if I liked a smaller building. So I started searching online, and if you search multi-tenant, and then especially if you search multi-tenant, like, hey, I don't know how to sell stuff and I want investors, and you start looking for investing in multi-tenant and sales and stuff like that on YouTube, Grant is going to literally stalk you for months. And so eventually I was like, all right, well, I don't know anything about sales because I'm a finance guy. I'm an introvert. So I started looking at Grant sales videos, and one day I was kind of looking at Grant, and he was like, for Christmas, this is 2 years or a year or two ago, for Christmas, I'm going to give everyone who buys Cardone University today for a low price of $4,500 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
For a full lifetime subscription forever, all updates, everything you get, no questions asked. When his normal price was $5,000 or so for a year, and then you had to renew, I was like, oh yeah, I'll take that deal. And so that was the first time I ever bought anything from any influencer or salesperson or a class of any kind. I always just read books.
Yeah.
And so I bought it, logged off, didn't worry about it. I got a phone call about 2 weeks into it. And it was Grant's assistant. She said, "Hey, so when do you want to meet him?"
Oh, you're kidding.
And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Yeah, in the package, you're supposed to come to Miami and meet him." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I think you got the wrong number." And she's like, no, you got to come down and meet him. Cause that was in the package. And I was like, well, I didn't know that. She's like, no, I think you were one of the first people to buy it. Like I bought it so fast. He like said my name while live. He's like, Denver Gray, one of the second buyers or whatever.
Yeah.
And, so I was like, all right, well, I have to figure out when I can come meet him.
Yeah, really.
And so, I had this plan at the time, and the plan, it didn't necessarily offend Grant, but I was like, all right, so look, I want to become a real estate agent so that I can get access to the data and look at properties. I'm going to help people sell properties because I want to give people really good service. And I had this huge plan as to how my partner and I, and we were going to collaborate and build this whole deal, sell homes and take all the extra cash from that and then put that into buildings. So I wrote kind of up the business plan, and when I went to talk to Grant for like 15 to 30 minutes, it was really cool because Grant, I just was like, hey, here's my business plan, what's wrong with it, help me out. And he was just like, all right, red pen, and this is wrong, rip this page out, destroyed the entire thing, just wrecked everything, and was like, listen, you are thinking so frighteningly small.
Wow.
And he changed the schedule up or something and turned that 15 to 30 minutes into a full hour and sat down and walked me through how he thought I should go through and really kind of build a business, and showed me like, hey, look, you need to do this, offer this to investors, build out a model for this and that, and walk me through this entire process of how to really build a business and bring other people in. Because his main thing is everyone likes the idea of investing in real estate because everyone knows there's value in it because everyone's got to live in it.
Yeah.
But most people don't have the time. He said, you have the time. You need to do a couple of deals, bring investors in, give them as much as you can to create a track record. And then from there, start taking the value that you create and deserve. And don't worry about making a bunch of money up front. Build a reputation, go do the right thing, and then scale it. Is that if you go the realtor route and try to build your own portfolio by selling and everything, you're going to get so distracted by all the sales stuff because now you're trying to do too many things at once. Just be the investment guy.
Right.
And he's like, he literally told me from across the table, he said, listen, it's easier for you to go buy a commercial deal than it is going to be for you to go buy 10 residential homes.
Wow.
And I was just like, mind blown. Like, wait, what? He said,
yeah.
No. Because when you buy a big building, the bank's not underwriting you. They're underwriting the property.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
He said, oh, well, what if I'm not experienced in, managing this, or I don't know how to run that? He's like, don't worry about it. Hire a property manager. Hey, I'm not running it. That guy is. They already manage all those thousands of units over there. And so now you're not responsible because the bank's going to say, hey, how are you going to take care of this? You're like, I'm not. That guy is. So you can outsource all the responsibility, all of the experience to someone who, and the moment I kind of grasped that, you could do that and literally say, hey, I'm not good at that. I'm good at this thing. I'm good at finding value. I'm good at finding good properties. Now the bank's going to say, all right, the property management, that's going to be this guy over here who does all that work. That's their specialty. That's what they do. So now the bank says, okay, I'm comfortable with that. So the way you make the bank comfortable is you go find other experts where that's their deal and you outsource it all. And that blew my mind and changed the way I viewed everything. And so we went on our first commercial deal and we took, our first because I turned my initial investment of 20 or 30,000 in the 2 or 3 houses. My first 5 houses basically turned into about 135,000.
Wow.
150,000 or so, and then I put 130,000 into my first building with my partner Danny, and then the new market value of that building is somewhere between 1 and 1.2. So we turned 135 into about between 6 to 850 in about 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
So we basically quadrupled our money. But what people don't realize is that money is in true market value and it's equity. So it's trapped in that building. And so how do I get that cash out to do it again? And that's where we are now, sell that equity and then go and do a couple more properties and do the same thing.
Right. Isn't it funny? Because, you know, you always, and I say it all the time, and I didn't even relate that to what you're talking about, but I always say to people all the time, you got to hire your weakness. And that's exactly what that is. You're hiring a property manager because that's not what you do. That's not your strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Never even thought of that.
But yeah, I mean, you can literally outsource the part that the bank uses your weakness, and as long as they're like, okay, that's how you're doing it, good, you're thinking bigger, you want to scale, and we know the market cred or the street cred of that business or that property manager, and suddenly you can use someone else's professional street credit. They're like, hopefully not their notoriety.
Yes.
To give you the ability to grab trust sooner than you might be able to otherwise.
Right.
So, and it lets you scale. So you can both scale and get that trust, not artificially, but just that's the way the bigger guys do it. And people don't really think about it that way.
Yeah.
And so now we're thinking, how do we get into 1,000 units in the next 3 to 5 years? And then how do we get into 10,000 units in the next 10 to 20 years?
Right.
So, and when you start asking questions like that, bankers talk to you, I mean, in a completely different way. And they're sitting there like, oh, okay, well, if you want to do this, you know, this is the steps you'd have to do to get there. How do you build that credibility as rapidly as possible? So, I mean, I live in an apartment with my partner. We live together because it keeps the cost down.
Right.
And at 3 a.m., I can go knock on his door and be like, hey, I found this property. We need to go out and see it tomorrow. Or, you know, I've got this idea. Structurally, what if we did this and that instead for that to get the cut? Like, if I have a 2 a.m. idea, I'm knocking on Danny's door. It's happening.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I know. Like Rex and I will do that all the time. I've woken up out of a dead sleep and gone, hey. You know, it's like, I got to tell you this, or he does the same thing. And it's like, you know, I know people. So I know I've heard Grant talk about renting. I've heard him talk about that as well. And it's interesting.
There's Danny talking.
It has happened. Yeah, you know, that's just what you have to do. And that's how things happen. And you guys are obviously like, whether it's 2 a.m. or whatever, you guys can collaborate and you can make things happen. So the best ideas sometimes happen at 2 a.m. if you're being well behaved.
Sure.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we could talk on and on here for hours, because you've brought like so much interesting information and stuff to this conversation. I really, really am glad I'm glad we made this happen and worked it out in your schedule, even though it was a little like you're in the middle of a move and stuff. And I hope all that goes well today. But yeah, we'll have to have you back on in, like I said, in 6 months or whatever, and see where you're at and how things are going. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. And you guys, like I said, throw a link in there, Denver, where they can find you and where they can follow you, and you know, because they'll want to. I know there's people on here who are going to want to watch your lives.
Absolutely.
All right.
We'll talk about it. Like, if they throw us ideas, something that they don't know about or want to know about, we would love to have topics that people really want to hear. Like, what do you want to learn about? And if I don't know, I'll go look it up, because, well, first I need to know. I need to go find that information out. I'm always trying to learn what it is that's important for me to be a better investor. And if I can teach that, I'll learn it that much faster. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking time for us today, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
And it might be sooner rather than later. So cheers. Everybody, thanks for joining. We'll go back and read your comments, and you guys have an awesome Monday. Do whatever lights your soul up, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.